I asked one question in that hospital room, just one, and the answer that came back didn't just break my heart, it detonated my entire life. The walls of that sterile room didn't fall down, but the walls of my marriage certainly did, right there, in a single silent second. And I want to tell you exactly how it happened, because what I learned from that moment changed how I see truth, love, and betrayal forever. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I'm so glad you're here with me today, because this story is the reason I started telling stories in the first place. If you've ever held a secret so heavy it made your bones ache, or if you've ever felt the ground shift beneath your feet without warning, you are in the right place. I have to ask you something before we go any further down this path. What is the one question you are most afraid to ask the person you love? Put that in the comments right now. I'm serious. Type it out. I'll be reading every single response while I tell you this story. My husband Jacob stood by the window, his broad frame silhouetted against the fading afternoon light. He wouldn't look at me, not directly. His eyes stayed fixed on some distant point beyond the glass, as if the parking lot below held the answers he was searching for. And I lay there in that hospital bed, my body still numb from the birth, my arms cradling our newborn daughter Rose. She was so small, so impossibly perfect. But even in that moment of pure, raw joy, a cold dread was spreading through my chest. I knew something was wrong. I had known for 9 months, honestly. I had felt it in the way he touched my belly hesitantly, like he was touching something that wasn't his. Speaking of knowing things deep in your gut, did you know that our subconscious minds process threats faster than our conscious thoughts can even form? Our bodies often know betrayal is coming long before our brains can articulate it. That tightening in your stomach, the unexplained anxiety, that is your primitive brain screaming at you to pay attention. I ignored that scream for the sake of my marriage, for the sake of the family I so desperately wanted to build. Let that be a lesson to you all. That voice is rarely ever wrong. Try to picture the scene for a moment. The sharp, clean scent of antiseptic hangs heavy in the air. The scratchy feel of the starched hospital sheets against my exhausted skin. The faint, rhythmic beeping of the monitor, still strapped to my finger. And cutting through all of it, the soft, cooing breaths of my daughter. An innocent sound in a room thick with unspoken words. For 10 minutes, neither of us spoke. The silence was not peaceful. It was the tense quiet of a battlefield before the first shot is fired. I was waiting for him to come to me, to kiss my forehead, to tell me she was beautiful. He just kept staring out that window. Finally, I broke the silence. My voice was hoarse, barely a whisper after the hours of labor. "Jacob," I said, my words trembling. He flinched, just a tiny twitch of his shoulders, but I saw it. "Talk to me, please. What is it?" He turned then, and the look on his face, God, I will never forget it. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't guilt. It was pure, unadulterated dread. The face of a man who has been carrying a boulder in his gut and has finally realized he can no longer stand. He walked over, but he didn't sit beside me. He stood at the foot of the bed, gripping the plastic railing until his knuckles turned white. "She's beautiful," he choked out, the words hollow and rehearsed. "We need to talk, Miriam." That is the moment. That is the line. We need to talk. The 4 most terrifying words in the English language. They precede every major life change, every heartbreak, every moment that alters the course of your future. If you are watching this and you have heard those words recently, my heart genuinely goes out to you. Tell me your story in the comments below. Let this be a safe space for all of us. Because believe me, I know the abyss you are staring into. His words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. I looked down at Rose's face, her tiny eyelids fluttering as she dreamed of a world she had just entered. "Can it wait?" I asked, desperation creeping into my voice. "Can it wait until we get home? We're supposed to be happy right now, Jacob. We're supposed to be a family." He shook his head, a violent, jerky motion. No, it can't wait. I've been waiting for this moment for too long already." My heart started to pound against my ribs. A primal maternal instinct kicked in and I held Rose tighter to my chest, protecting her from a danger I couldn't see or understand. "What is it?" I repeated. "Just say it." A strange calm settled over him then. He stopped gripping the railing and pushed his hands into his pockets. It was a defeated posture. "I love you, Miriam," he started, and I could feel the butt coming like a physical blow. "I need you to know that. But there's something I have to ask you. Something I should have asked you a long time ago." Confusion replaced some of the fear. He wanted to ask me a question. He was the one acting like a ghost. He was the one casting a shadow over the birth of our child. "Then ask," I snapped, my patience gone. "Ask me whatever it is so we can move on." Imagine standing on a frozen lake. The ice is thick in most places, strong enough to hold you. You've been walking on it for years, confident in its safety. But there is always a spot, hidden beneath the snow, where the ice is thin. One wrong step and you plunge into the freezing darkness below. I was standing on that spot without knowing it. And with his next words, Jacob was about to show me the cracks forming beneath my feet. I want you to truly understand the weight of this moment, because it is the essence of the whole tragedy. Are you ready? Because I wasn't. He took a deep breath, a ragged, shuddering sound that filled the small room. 9 months ago, he began slowly, his eyes finally meeting mine. When you told me you were pregnant, I was overjoyed, truly. He paused, licking his dry lips. But there was a complication, a medical issue. You remember? The doctor said I had a very low sperm count. He called it a borderline case. He said conception could take years. Could. But it happened for us right away. A miracle, they said. A cold wave washed over me. I knew exactly where this was going. I knew the question before he even asked it. The word miracle had been used so often during our pregnancy. It had felt like a blessing. Now it felt like an accusation. Here is a truth about men and about people in general that I learned that day. The seeds of suspicion, once planted, do not lie dormant. They grow. They wrap themselves around every happy moment, strangling the joy out of it. Every time someone said, "The baby has Jacob's nose," he didn't see a compliment. He saw a lie. Every time a stranger said, "She's the spitting image of her daddy," he heard a mockery. He had been living in a private hell of his own making, examining every feature, every mannerism, looking for proof of a betrayal that I could never have imagined. The pressure of it must have been immense, crushing, and he was about to transfer that pressure onto me. "Miriam," he said, his voice cracking, "I have to know, and please, for the love of God, do not lie to me." He paused again, the silence hanging between us like a guillotine blade. Then he spoke the words that ended my marriage. He didn't shout them, he didn't whisper them with anger, he spoke them with a terrible, desperate sadness. "Is Rose even mine?" The question didn't make sense at first. It was like he was speaking a foreign language. The words entered my ears, but my brain refused to process them. I just stared at him, slack-jawed, my entire being focused on the tiny, warm body in my arms. "What?" I breathed. It was the only syllable I could manage. He repeated himself, his voice stronger now, as if saying it out loud a second time gave him courage. "Is Rose mine? Is she my biological daughter? I need you to look me in the eye and tell me that you haven't been with anyone else, that there isn't a chance, even a 1% chance, that another man is her father." Rage, white-hot and consuming, exploded inside of me. It burned away the shock and the fear, leaving only a raw, primal fury. "How dare you?" I hissed, my body trembling. "How dare you ask me that? Today of all days? Look at her, Jacob. Look at our daughter and ask me that." I held her up slightly, and he recoiled as if she were a live grenade. "I can't," he moaned, covering his face with his hands. "I can't look at her until I know. I've been trying for 9 months, but I can't. Every time I look at her, all I see is the possibility of a lie." His shoulders began to shake. Was he crying? I didn't care. This is the part of the story where I need you to listen closely, especially if you are someone who has ever been falsely accused. The overwhelming emotion isn't just anger. It's a profound sense of insult. It's an attack on your character, on your very soul. It devalues everything you have shared. In that moment, the man I loved, the man I had just given a child to, was telling me he saw me not as his wife, but as a potential cheater, a liar, a fraud. The exhaustion of labor, the hormonal whirlwind of birth, the immense vulnerability of lying in that bed, none of it mattered to him. His insecurity trumped my reality. And that, above all else, is what I could not forgive. What would you have done? Seriously, if you were in that hospital bed holding your firstborn child and your partner accused you of paternity fraud, what would your very first reaction be? Scream? Cry? Throw something? I want you to put yourself in my story for a second. Comment below and tell me how you think you would have reacted, because the way I responded was something I never expected. It was cold. It was clinical. It was the death of my marriage. All the emotion drained out of me. The rage flickered and died, replaced by a hollow emptiness. I felt like I was floating above my own body, watching a scene from a terrible movie. "Get the doctor," I said quietly. My voice was devoid of any feeling. Jacob looked up, his face a mess of tears and confusion. "What? Get the doctor," I repeated, my tone flat. "We will settle this right now. You want to know if your daughter is yours? We will get a DNA test, a court-ordered one if we have to. But you are going to know for sure today that you just destroyed our family for nothing." The look on his face shifted. For the first time, I saw a flicker of doubt in his eyes, not doubt about me, but doubt in his own actions. He had expected denial. He had expected tears and pleading. He had not expected this icy composure. "Miriam, we don't have to do it like this," he stammered. But I cut him off. "Yes, we do. You don't get to make an accusation like that and then walk it back. You don't get to ruin the birth of our child with your paranoia and then say, never mind, we're doing the test. And when it comes back and proves what I already know, I want you to remember this conversation for the rest of your life. Consider the power of certainty. It is a double-edged sword. It can give you immense confidence, but it can also blind you. Jacob was so certain of his own doubt that he was willing to risk everything on it. I was so certain of my own truth that I was willing to end everything for it. We were two forces of nature colliding in that small room, and there was no going back. The path was set, the wheels were in motion. I pressed the call button for the nurse, never once breaking eye contact with my husband. My husband. The word already felt foreign, like a title from a past life. The next few hours were a blur of whispered conversations, sympathetic glances from the nursing staff, and a sterile cheek swab that felt like a dagger being scraped across my baby's delicate skin. I watched Jacob's face as the swab was taken. I searched for some sign of relief, some indication that he knew he was making a horrible mistake. I saw nothing but grim determination. He was fully committed to the bit. He was the tragic hero in his own twisted narrative, the man who just had to know the truth. The test would take a few days, they told us. A few days for the lab to process the sample. A few days of living in a nightmare. I'll go home, Jacob had said quietly, not looking at me. I'll wait for you at the house. We can talk when you get back. He left. He just walked out of that hospital room, leaving me alone with our daughter. He didn't kiss her goodbye. He didn't kiss me. He just picked up his jacket and vanished. And I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to the soft sounds of Rose's breathing, and I wept. I didn't weep for the marriage I was losing. I wept for the man I had married. The man who was clearly so lost and broken that he couldn't even see the truth when it was sleeping right in front of him. What kind of poison had seeped into his mind to lead him to this point? Who or what had planted this seed of doubt? Pause the video for a second. I want you to think about the psychology here. Jacob's demand for a paternity test wasn't just about the baby. It was a manifestation of a deep-seated insecurity. It was a cry for help. He was telling me, without telling me, that he felt unworthy of me, that he felt he didn't deserve this happiness. So he sabotaged it. He created a problem where none existed because he couldn't handle the perfection of what we had. It's a classic self-destructive behavior, and understanding that didn't make it hurt any less. It just gave me a framework for the madness. If you have someone in your life who operates like this, let me know in the comments. It's more common than you think. The days in the hospital were supposed to be filled with visitors, flowers, and the shared joy of introducing Rose to the world. Instead, they were a desolate waiting game. My mother came, her brow furrowed with concern. "Where's Jacob?" she asked, her voice laced with suspicion. I couldn't lie, the words poured out of me in a torrent of grief and humiliation. I told her everything. Her face went pale, then red with anger. The protective fury of a mother seeing her child hurt is a terrifying thing. She didn't say much, just held my hand and told me I was strong. "No matter what that test says," she whispered, her voice shaking with emotion, "we are here for you." That was the first moment I truly understood that my marriage wasn't just about me and Jacob anymore. Our rupture was sending shockwaves through our entire family. Remember the feeling of watching a train wreck in slow motion? You know the impact is inevitable. You can see the twisted metal and shattered glass before it even happens. That was what the next 72 hours felt like. I was waiting for the phone to ring, for the nurse to walk in with an envelope, for the hammer to finally fall. I spent the days holding Rose, memorizing the curve of her lips, the soft down of her hair, the tiny dimples on her knuckles. I loved her with a fierce intensity that surprised me. It was us against the world, me and her. If her father chose to be a fool, then so be it. On the third day, the door to my room opened and a young intern walked in. He was holding a manila folder. His face was a mask of professional neutrality, but his eyes were nervous. "Mrs. Yoder?" he asked, his voice cracking slightly. I sat up straighter in the bed, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might burst through my chest. "Yes?" I managed to say. He cleared his throat. "We have the results from the paternity test." He extended the folder towards me. My hands were shaking as I reached for it. The paper felt impossibly heavy. It was just paper and ink, but it held the power to either heal my world or tear it apart completely. I didn't open the folder immediately. Instead, I looked at the intern. "Have you spoken to my husband?" I asked. He nodded. "He just left the hospital, ma'am. He was visibly upset." I didn't know what that meant. Was he upset because he was wrong, or upset because he got what he wanted? The ambiguity was maddening. Slowly, I opened the folder. The words blurred together at first, a jumble of legal jargon and statistical probabilities. I scanned the page frantically, searching for the one line that mattered, and then I found it. Probability of paternity, 99.999%. It was a match. Of course it was a match. I knew it in my soul. Jacob was Rose's father. The man who had doubted me, the man who had turned our miracle into a crime scene, was the biological father of our child. The relief I expected to feel didn't come. Instead, there was only a profound sense of sadness, a hollow victory, a confirmation of the obvious that had already cost us everything. The truth had been proven, but the damage was irreversible. The accusation, the doubt, the look in his eyes, it couldn't be undone by a piece of paper. This was the validation of my truth, yet it brought no peace. It was a strange, disorienting emotional landscape. I was right, but I had lost. He was wrong, and he had lost everything. The paternity test didn't restore my marriage. It didn't make the accusation disappear. It simply provided a documentary record of his betrayal of trust. It was the official, notarized end of our life together. Sometimes being right is the most painful thing in the world. It means you have to accept the reality of the situation without the comforting lie of ambiguity. Are you with me? Let me know if you've ever been in a situation where being right felt like losing. Later that day, I was discharged. My mother picked me up. The car ride home was silent, save for the soft coos of Rose in her car seat. As we pulled into the driveway of our house, I saw Jacob standing on the front porch. His face was pale, his eyes red-rimmed. He looked like a man who had aged 10 years in 3 days. I got out of the car, holding Rose protectively. He took a step towards me, his mouth opening to speak. I held up my free hand to stop him. I know the results, I said, my voice cold and steady. I know you know them too. He flinched. Miriam, I am so sorry. I don't know what came over me. I was so stupid. Please, can we just... I looked at him, really looked at him, and I felt nothing. No love, no hate, just a vast empty void where our life together used to be. The question he asked in the hospital room was just a question, but it was the key that unlocked a door we could never close again. It wasn't the DNA test that ended our marriage. It was the fact that he had asked. It was the months of silent suspicion, the coldness, the distanced looks. It was the moment he looked at his newborn daughter and saw a potential lie instead of a piece of himself. The test results were just the final nail in the coffin. The marriage had already died in that hospital room the moment he voiced his doubt. I carried Rose past him into the house and closed the door, and that was it. The life I had planned was over. What happened after that? Well, that's a story for another day. Divorce, custody, the slow, painful process of rebuilding a life from the wreckage. It was the hardest thing I have ever done. But every day, looking at Rose, I know I did the right thing. I chose my dignity. I chose her. I chose to walk away from a love that was poisoned by doubt. Because a marriage without trust is not a marriage, it is a prison. And I was finally free. Looking back on that moment now, years later, I realized that the question wasn't the disease. It was a symptom. The disease was his own insecurity, a cancer that had been growing silently long before our daughter was born. His question simply brought it into the light, and that is the thing about the truth. It has a way of surfacing, whether you are ready for it or not. You cannot build a life on a foundation of suspicion. You cannot love someone you are constantly waiting to betray you. It will crush you. It will crush them. It will crush everything you hold dear. If you have ever been doubted by someone you love, I want you to hear this. It is not your fault. Their insecurity is their battle to fight. You cannot prove your worth to someone who is determined to see you as worthless. All you can do is stand in your truth and let them deal with the consequences of their own blindness. You are worthy of a love that doesn't require a DNA test to believe you. You are worthy of a partner who looks at your child and sees only love, not a question mark. And that is the lesson I carry with me every single day. Thank you for listening to my story. It took a lot for me to share this part of my life with you, but if it helped even one of you feel less alone, it was worth it. Your support on this channel means the world to me. Please take a moment to like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and share your thoughts in the comments below. I try to respond to as many as I can, and remember, the next time you are standing on that frozen lake, listen for the cracking sound. It might just save your life. I'll see you in the next video.